All right, I'm going to do some problems for Chapter 6. The first one is Cornerstone 6-22, and we're just doing equivalent units. So 6-22 is we have units in beginning work in process, which is 0. Units complete, which is 70,000. And then units in ending work in process, and that is 10,500, and they are 40% complete. So when I'm figuring out my equivalent units, what I want to do is I want to figure out the cost of equivalent units. I'm not actually trying to figure out how many units I have, but what I'm going to use is cost, because that's really what we're concerned about. So I know for sure that I have 70,000 units that are completely done. I have accumulated 100% of the cost. So that is, because those are done and over with. So 70,000 units, and then I've got 10,500 units that are sitting in my work in process 40% complete. So I can make the assumption that I have incurred 40% of those costs. So I'm going to take my 10,500 and multiply it by 40%. So then my equivalent units of production, is going to be both of these together, which is 74,200. So that's my equivalent units. The next one I'm going to do is 6-23. I'm sorry, these shouldn't be dates, but numbers. Let's do this. It's thinking about it, but I'm sorry, it should be numbers. It's 6-23. So in this case, in April, the grinding department, we have two departments here. So the grinding department completed and transferred out 105,000 units. Completed and transferred. Okay, and then they also had 37,500 units that were 60% complete. 60% complete. And they incurred manufacturing costs totaling 1,530,000. So calculate the unit cost. So I know that I have 105,000 that were 100% complete. So I'm going to incur all of those costs, and then I have 37,500 that are 60% complete. So I am going to calculate that at 60% of the cost. So my equivalent units of production here is going to be 127,500. Now, to find the per unit cost, per unit, I'm going to take the 127,500, and I'm actually going to divide the cost by it. So 1,530,000 divided by my equivalent units. So my per unit cost is $12 a unit. To figure out what my cost was transferred out, I know that I had 105,000 that were transferred out, and I'm just going to multiply that by my per unit cost. So my cost transferred out is 1,260,000, and then my cost, so this was transferred, and then my cost in ending work in process is, I'm going to take my units here, my equivalent units of 22,500, I'm going to multiply that by my per unit cost. So ending work in process is 270,000. The next one I'm going to do is 29. We are not going to be doing the weighted average, so I'm going to do just the FIFO, so 629. And I am going to, first of all, figure out my equivalent units for August. So in this case, I know that I had units started and completed. So units started and completed. And my total units started and completed were 138,000. I'm going to take that and I'm going to subtract how many I already had in beginning, because I don't want to include that in my started and beginning. So I'm going to subtract 24,000. So units started and completed is 114,000. So then the next part is I'm going to have units in beginning work in process. And I'm going to take that. Now, beginning work in process, they were already 80% complete. So I only have the remaining 20% to account for. So I'm going to take my 24,000 that were sitting in beginning work in process, and I'm going to multiply that by the remaining cost that's left, which is only 20%. And the next part is the units in ending work in process. Ending work in process. And that's going to be my 16,000. And then they said that was 75% complete. So that's going to be 12,000, which means that next month I'm going to incur 25% of this cost, because this month I incurred the 75%. So my equivalent units of production here is 130,800. The second part is to get the cost per unit. So I'm going to take my total cost. So this is cost per unit. So I'm going to take my total cost of, I think they said it was 301,000. I'm going to divide it by my equivalent units production. So my cost per unit is $2.30, just about. And then the last part is to figure out my cost transferred out and what's in ending. Transferred out. So my cost transferred out is I want to figure out what my beginning work in process costs were, because those are going to follow me to the next process. And that was 24,000. And that was just work in process as of July 1st. And then the next part is the cost to finish beginning work in process. To finish. And I'm going to take my equivalent units here, so that's equals the 4,800 that were in beginning. I'm just going to multiply it by my per unit cost. So 11,046 basically. And then the last part is my started and completed. Started and completed. So in this case, I'm going to again take my 14,000. Multiply it by my per unit cost, and that's 262. I rounded here. It should really be 262, 200 if you just rounded to 230, but that's okay. So your total cost is 297. 240 really is what it should be if you're not if you rounded here. And then ending work in process is how much I have in ending, and which my equivalent units were 12,000 times, I'll just do 230 this time, my cost per unit, which is, so that ends up being 27,600. So these are the basic concepts in Chapter 6. If you would like me to add any additional problems, let me know. I'll be more than happy to put a video up here, okay? Thanks.